My wife slept with men from a bar, claiming she deserved it after having a baby. So, I decided to give her payback. I'm a 32-year-old man, married to my wife Janet, who is 26. We've been married for 3 years and have a 7-month-old daughter. A few days ago, I found something in her bag that shocked me. It was a pack of condoms. I'm not the type to snoop through her things, but this time, it was urgent. My wife was in the shower, and I needed a diaper to change our baby. I had placed the baby on the changing table when I realized we were out of diapers. I remembered Janet kept a few in her bag when she took the baby for walks. Her bag was near the changing table, so I opened it and found 2 diapers inside. As I pulled one out, something fell to the floor, a pack of condoms. It was a pack of 3, but only one was left. I checked the bag to see if the other 2 had fallen inside, but they were gone. That meant 2 had already been used. Our baby was crying loudly, so I quickly put the condom in my pocket and changed her. When Janet came out of the shower, I put the baby in her crib, pulled out the condom, and asked Janet about it. She immediately denied it, saying it wasn't hers and tried to twist the situation, blaming me instead. I was stunned by how easily she lied. I told her I found it in her bag, but she replied, "But you just pulled it from your pocket, right?" I lost my temper because she refused to admit it was hers. Then she laughed and said, "Oh, poor you. Look at your puppy face. I was just messing with you." She winked, but it was clear she was lying. We don't use protection because she's breastfeeding, and her cycle hasn't returned yet. She dismissed me, saying her cycle was back to normal, so we might need protection if we didn't want more kids. I asked her what happened to the other 2 condoms, since only one was left. She laughed and said it was a funny story. She claimed she bought the pack yesterday, went out with friends, and a guy was hitting on her friend, Kyle. Things got heated, and they needed condoms, so she gave them 2. I gave her a look of disbelief and asked if she expected me to believe that. She said yes, and even suggested I call Kyle to confirm. I didn't call because if Janet was lying, Kyle would likely back her up. I told Janet I wasn't buying her story and demanded she tell me the truth. Now, she's trying to manipulate me, saying I don't trust her. She's crying, claiming I don't understand her and that she's going through postpartum depression after having a baby. Meanwhile, I'm accusing her of cheating. I haven't tried to fix things with her this time. Usually, I'm the one who apologizes after our fights because women rarely break the ice and say sorry first. But this time, I don't feel like apologizing. I don't think I did anything wrong by confronting her about the condoms. Do you think I could have handled this differently? If she's using postpartum depression as an excuse to hand out condoms like candy, maybe it's time for a reality check. Her excuse game is stronger than her commitment to honesty. As for what I could have done differently, maybe I should have packed my own emergency condom in the diaper bag. Who knows? Next time, she might pull out a clown nose and claim it's for stress relief. Thank you for engaging with my post. You're right. She waved a red flag right in my face, and I didn't ignore it. Some of you asked for more details about Janet to understand the situation better. Janet and I have known each other for over 6 years. We met at a friend's party. She was the most beautiful woman there, and we spent the evening talking, dancing, and having fun. Unfortunately, I forgot to ask for her number. I'm not much of a party person, but it was my friend's promotion party, and he insisted I attend. I asked my friend about Janet, but he didn't know her either. She was a colleague's friend. After some convincing, my friend got her number for me. I waited a week before texting her because I didn't want to seem desperate. Luckily, she replied, saying she regretted not asking for my number. From there, we hit it off. Janet was working a part-time job at the time. She said she didn't want a full-time job because it required too much commitment, and she preferred to live freely. Looking back, that could have been a red flag, but I didn't think much of it then. I was deeply focused on my work and admired her carefree lifestyle. After dating for 2 years, I proposed, and we got married in a small ceremony with close friends and family. Janet didn't want a big wedding. She wanted to use the money for a vacation instead. After the wedding, we went on a 15-day trip to Europe. A year and a half into our marriage, Janet got pregnant. She was upset because we hadn't planned for a baby yet. We wanted to travel and enjoy life before starting a family. She even considered ending the pregnancy, but I convinced her to keep the baby. I loved kids and wanted one, but I never forced her into it. Pregnancy was tough for her, and she often threw tantrums, but I took it all in stride because I knew it was a challenging time for her. Thankfully, her pregnancy was complication-free, but after the baby was born, things got worse. She felt trapped and depressed, so I took her to therapy. The doctor said it was postpartum depression, which is common after childbirth. I did everything to support her, even hiring a full-time nanny, so she could have time for herself. When our daughter was 2 months old, Janet started going out with her friends again, just like she used to before the baby. I didn't stop her because the doctor said a happy mom would nurture her baby better. Now, 7 months later, I found a condom in her bag, and she's throwing her best friend under the bus to save herself. She's trying to manipulate the situation, but I'm not backing down. I told her she thought she could lie her way out of this. She was wrong. I'm not letting this go until she tells me the truth. Since she's not being honest, I've started digging on my own. I wanted to check her phone, but she guards it closely, even when she sleeps. Asking her directly would only lead to more drama, so I'm stuck. If anyone has suggestions, I'd appreciate it. If Janet's protecting her phone, like it's a state secret, maybe I need to get creative. Perhaps I could distract her with our baby while I sneak a look. Or maybe I could accidentally spill something on her phone to get a moment alone with it. Whatever I do, I'll need a solid plan, because Janet's full of tricks. Thanks for the advice. Most of you suggested hiring a private investigator, but before I could do that, I found a way myself. One Sunday, I decided to stalk her social media accounts. I couldn't find anything suspicious from a public view, but a photo of her with her best friend, Kyle, caught my eye. I checked Kyle's profile and discovered she was married with a toddler. The other day, Janet had claimed that Kyle was the one who needed a condom because she was making out with a guy at a bar. I thought, wait, does Kyle's husband know about this? I went to Janet and said, "Hey, I'm sorry I doubted you about the condom thing. I trust you. If you said it was Kyle, then it must be true." She smiled, and I asked if Kyle did this often. Janet started listing incidents where Kyle had flirted with men at bars. I didn't know if she was telling the truth or just covering for herself. After listening to her stories, I dropped a bombshell. Isn't Kyle married with a toddler? Are you supporting her in cheating? Does her husband know about this? Janet froze, then started ranting. No, no, no. That's not what I meant. It's just harmless flirting. I interrupted. But you just shared stories of her picking up men at bars. Why would she need a condom for harmless flirting? She quickly backtracked, saying, "Oh, did I say Kyle? My bad. Pregnancy brain. I meant my single friend, Kay. She's the one who's goofing around. Kyle is the sober one." I was amazed at how easily she made up stories. I laughed and said, "I caught you. You don't have to protect Kyle. Are you worried I'll tell her husband the truth?" She begged me not to, saying it would ruin their marriage and they have a baby. She claimed Kyle loves her husband, and it was just meaningless sex. I looked at her with a smile, knowing she was caught in her own web of lies. I knew she was fabricating the truth, not for Kyle's sake, but to shield herself. Every tale she spun about Kyle's infidelity was, in reality, a mirror of Janet's own betrayals. Yet, she wasn't ready to confess so easily. Feigning concern, I told her I was unsettled by Kyle deceiving her husband and that I intended to reveal everything. Janet erupted, screaming, "Who do you think you are? Acting like some self-righteous saint. Who gave you the authority to play morality police?" Her rant continued, but I cut her off, stating firmly that I wasn't interested in excuses. I was informing Kyle's husband. Her defiance crumbled, and she broke into sobs. I sensed she was on the verge of admitting the truth, But I wasn't prepared to let her off so easily. Without another word, I stormed into my room and locked the door. A mere confession wouldn't be enough to absolve her. She needed to face the full weight of her betrayal. This wasn't just about her marriage. It was about dismantling the false friendships she had built upon deception. Determined, I messaged Kyle on Instagram, telling her that Janet had let slip a sordid secret. The revelation left Kyle stunned. To reinforce my claim, I forwarded recordings of Janet's own tirades, where she recounted the details of Kyle's supposed affair. Kyle saw the message but left me on read. Moments later, Janet's phone rang, and soon after, she was pounding on my door, her voice a mixture of anger and desperation. "Why are you doing this to me? Open the door. You're destroying everything. Why don't you believe me?" She was still on the call with Kyle because I heard her shriek, "He's not opening the door. God knows what he's planning." Then my phone rang. It was Kyle. She pleaded with me to hear Janet out before making any rash decisions. I remained unmoved, warning her that if I didn't get the truth, I would send the recordings to her husband. Kyle panicked, begging me not to act impulsively. In that moment of desperation, she blurted out the truth. Janet had been the one cheating, not her. For over 4 months, Janet had been sneaking around, living a double life. I demanded to know why she never intervened. Kyle admitted that she and their other friends had tried to reason with Janet, but she was stubborn, justifying her actions by saying, "I gave him a beautiful baby. This is my little indulgence." That was enough confirmation for me. My instincts had pointed to the truth all along, but now I had the final piece of the puzzle. However, my mission wasn't over. I wanted to sever all of Janet's support systems. I instructed Kyle to come over with her husband. Maybe it was a step too far, but I wanted Kyle's husband to see Janet for the manipulative fraud she was. I wanted him to know she wasn't the kind of person his wife should be around. Kyle hesitated, but eventually agreed on one condition. I couldn't show the recordings to her husband. She feared Janet's talent for spinning lies would cast doubts on her own integrity. I relented. An hour later, Kyle arrived. I stayed locked in my room until I heard the commotion outside. Janet's voice was frantic. "Why are you here? I told you I'd handle it. Go away. I'll take care of this myself." Kyle wasn't having it. "Are you kidding me, Janet? You tried to pin your mess on me." The argument escalated quickly, their voices overlapping in a chaotic symphony of betrayal. Kyle's husband intervened, demanding Janet's version of events. With an icy glare, Kyle silently dared Janet to lie. Breaking down in tears, Janet finally confessed. Everything she had told me about Kyle was a fabrication. The truth? She had been meeting strangers at bars and sleeping with them, using Kyle as a scapegoat. Kyle's husband was appalled. "This is the kind of company you keep," he spat at Kyle. She almost tore our marriage apart. Janet's confession left Kyle and her husband disgusted. They stood up, ready to leave. Kyle turned to Janet with finality in her voice. "Don't ever contact me again. I love my husband and my family. You're not worth risking them." Janet tried to grab Kyle's hand, sobbing, but Kyle pulled away without hesitation and walked out. Once they were gone, Janet turned to me, her face streaked with tears and indignation. "Are you satisfied now? What did you accomplish by humiliating me in front of my friend and her husband? Is this how men operate?" I met her glare with cold detachment. "Your little tricks won't work anymore. You exhausted every excuse, pregnancy, postpartum, playing the victim. Now, you'll face the consequences. What you've experienced so far is just the beginning." I grabbed my things and headed into the other room, dialing my lawyer. I laid out everything. Janet's drinking, her reckless behavior, her neglect as a mother. He assured me we'd build a case centered on child safety, proving that a woman who brought strange men into her home wasn't fit to raise our daughter. I wasn't sure how strong my case would be, but I knew one thing for certain. I would fight with everything I had to protect my little girl from her deceitful, unfaithful mother. Janet's world collapsed like a house of cards in a storm. Who knew that a little social media sleuthing would unravel such an elaborate web of lies? She could cry an ocean of crocodile tears. It wouldn't change the fact that she had betrayed not only me, but everyone who ever trusted her. Now, the real war was about to begin. The legal fight for custody. This wasn't some petty squabble. It was a high-stakes battle for my daughter's future. And let's be honest, Janet's credibility was about as solid as a used car salesman in a clown suit. She could play the victim all she wanted. I had an entire arsenal of evidence waiting to be unleashed. It was time to show her that actions have consequences. I had to delete my last update. My lawyer warned me not to discuss our custody strategy publicly. The day after I posted, he insisted I remove it immediately. Now that everything is settled, I can finally share the rest. After that chaotic confrontation, I moved into the guest room and kept my interactions with Janet to a bare minimum. She tried every trick in the book. Cooking my meals, making a sorry cake, even buying flowers and cards. She genuinely believed that once my anger faded, I'd forgive her. She had no idea what was coming. Almost a month later, my lawyer arrived with divorce papers. The moment Janet saw them, she turned pale. She was petrified. "What are you doing? How could you do this to me?" I watched, unmoved, as she crumbled. Once the attorney left, I told her to pack her things and leave. She wailed, begging for a second chance. For the sake of our baby. She tried to hug me, but I pushed her away. "I have nowhere to go," she cried. I smirked. "Not my problem anymore. I gave you everything. Now, I'm giving you what you deserve." Her tears turned to fury. "I'll take every penny you have," she threatened. I laughed. "Good luck finding a lawyer. The best ones don't work for free, unless you plan to pay them with the only currency you have left." She gasped in outrage, retreating toward our daughter's nursery. I blocked her path. "She's not going with you. She's not going to live on the streets." She sobbed. "You're tearing me away from my baby." I stared at her, devoid of sympathy. "You never wanted to be a mother. Consider this freedom." With no choice left, she packed her things and walked out. The custody battle? It was barely a fight. Janet had neither a home nor a job. She didn't even contest custody. What she did fight for, however, was alimony. She tried demanding a fortune. I paid a fraction of what she wanted, just enough to get rid of her. Worth every penny. Kyle and her husband later visited, checking on my daughter. Kyle apologized for not telling me sooner. She admitted Janet had always resented motherhood, viewing our baby as an inconvenience. I made the right choice. My daughter deserved better. And as for Janet, she got exactly what she earned.